name's Mike James. I'm a hybrid cloud sales specialist with NetApp, and I want to take the next 10 minutes going through a whiteboard session on NetApp's leading emerging product, AltaVault. AltaVault is an integrated cloud storage solution for both backup and archiving. I'm going to get into why you want to consider AltaVault, how it compares to backing up to tape and backing up to a purpose-built appliance, and then get into some next steps, how you can use our sizing tool to create an ROI and TCO against your existing environment, and then how you can test and prove out this technology. So let's get into the why. AltaVault is transforming the way NetApp customers are backing up and archiving their data. And the first and primary reason is a dramatic cost reduction. To highlight this, I'm going to talk about a couple of recent wins. One was with spot trading. And spot trading saw a 96% reduction on their TCO compared to tape over 3 years. So 96% TCO reduction against tape. And another great win we had earlier this year was with UFP, Universal Forest Products. We were head-to-head with a market-leading purpose-built appliance vendor, and we came in at 46% below their cost on their TCO. So UFP, 46% TCO against purpose-built backup appliance. But it's not just cost, it's also a dramatic reduction in your backup windows. So not just a smaller backup window, but IT can now deliver an SLA with confidence back to the business on that recovery time objective and recovery point objective that they would never have had with tape. So SLAs on recovery time objective and recovery point objective. Another great point is just the simplicity of the design. AltaVault is a set up and forget. It's going to give you time back to be able to focus on other priorities in your business. Another is flexibility. AltaVault's an open architecture. It works with a multitude of different backup platforms, and you can choose whichever cloud provider using an object store with S3 or CDMI protocol. AltaVault even has an automated tool that if you were to change your cloud vendor in the future, you can do that in an automated fashion. So, how would you like to enjoy some of these outcomes? Well, you can. And let me show you how you can do that with AltaVault. The core value to AltaVault is how it's being able to unlock the value of the low-cost object store within the public and private cloud. And if we look at the average cost of object store over the last 5 years, in 2010 it was averaging at 3 cents per gig, and the price has dropped down now to below a penny in 2015. This translates to getting 1 terabyte of storage for less than $100 per year. So a year's worth of storage for less than $100. That is now a similar price to the tape media, but without all the overhead costs of managing your tape environment. So let's look at how you back up today. You've got your production data. And production data is growing year over year. Across all verticals, we're seeing an average of between 20 and 40% year over year growth of data. And this is putting a lot of pressure on backup solutions. And if we look at with tape, you've got to back up to multiple tape drives. The tapes have to be loaded, unloaded, labeled. They then have to be loaded onto trucks. The trucks then have to drive to off-site building. Tapes then have to be stored, hopefully in a good environment so they don't get damaged. And then when you want to recover the data, again, the tapes have to be found, loaded onto trucks. Load into the tape drives and recover that data. And this process, at best, is taking between 72 hours and weeks. But to manage this is complex. There's an element of risk. You know, the tapes can get damaged, they can get lost. You may not be able to recover that data, and you could break, you know, compliance and certainly disappoint the business when they're trying to actually recover that data, costing the company money. So there's risk, and the cost is constantly increasing. It's having to try and keep up with this production data. So you've got cost, and then also missing those backup windows. So you're not getting those backups done in time. And then let's look at how this compares to a purpose-built backup appliance. So with a purpose-built backup appliance, it addresses the complexity, it takes out the risk, and also reduces those backup windows, but it certainly doesn't address the cost. You know, a purpose-built backup appliance comes at a premium, and not only do you need one appliance, but if you want to actually move that data off-prem, you need a second purpose-built backup appliance. And then when you take both purpose-built backup appliances into consideration, the data now is costing as much, if not more, than your production data. So how does Ultravolt address these issues? Well, Ultravolt will interoperate with your existing operations and so you can still use your existing backup software, whether it's a Veeam or Commvault, Backup Exec, and there's a multitude. Backup Exec, you can use, you can even mount an NFS or CIFS share from a database, from Oracle or SQL. So you just create another share, whether a CIFS share or a NFS share, and it would mount to an Ultravolt appliance. And you can have up to 128 concurrent streams of data, all backing up to the Ultravolt, 128 streams. And the ingest speed of up to 9.2 terabytes per hour. And the Ultravolt will dedupe, compress, and encrypt all in line. So the encryption is 256-bit AES encryption, which is FIPS compliant. You hold the keys, so you hold the keys on site. And we're using a unique technology for the deduplication. So we're using an inline variable segment length. And we can get down to very low granularity, to like half a K of granularity. And we were able to get more deduplication than you would do with a fixed block deduplication. And then in addition, we're using LZ compression. And we're typically getting 30-to-1 ratio on dedupe and compression on our customers' data. So 30 terabytes coming in, you're using one terabyte of storage on the appliance. It's encrypted on the appliance, and it's encrypted into the cloud. So fully 256-bit AES encryption. And we're using any S3 or CDMI protocol. There's a nice policy engine that comes with this appliance, and not just for managing the appliance, but also the WAN optimization. So included is WAN optimization. You can set a QoS, trickle the data out of hours or when the pipe is being least utilized. And typically clients don't have to upgrade their WAN connection when they implement an Ultravolt. But there's more. If you would actually lose your on-prem site, you are able to recover a DR virtual appliance in the cloud. You would send up the keys, rehydrate the data, and then use compute resources in the cloud to actually recover your environment. And you could do that to a disaster recovery site of your choice. Upload a recovery appliance, hydrate the data, and recover with your compute resources. So talking of virtual appliances, so we've talked about a physical appliance here. The AltaVault also comes in 3 virtual appliances: large, medium, and small. And these can sit on a Hyper-V or a VMware environment. So let's look at how this compares to the other environments out there. We've talked a little bit about tape already, but you can see that you can now have 1/30 of the footprint in the cloud using these fantastic economics of object store of less than $100 per terabyte. And you don't have this overhead of managing the tapes. You don't have the complexity or the risk, and the costs are less, much less when you consider the operational costs. Against a purpose-built appliance, you can configure an AltaVault just to have enough cache of that data that you may need to recover instantaneously, or some data you may want to pin indefinitely. But typically we can size the physical appliance of a less capacity than you would build a purpose-built appliance. And then when you consider a second purpose-built appliance, you don't need a second appliance with AltaVault. We're now using a very low-cost object store in the cloud. And this is why we're able to see a more than a 46% reduction on TCO when we won the deal with UFP. So, and then there's one other. So, the likes of a Veeam and a Commvault, they'll tell you that they can back up to the cloud as well, straight from the backup platform, and they can. And so when they do, like Veeam, for example, would need to spin up a virtual machine in the cloud. So you've got to now pay for a virtual machine. The machines will have to replicate between each other. They don't have the inline variable segment length deduplication. So they need a much larger WAN pipe to move that data across. They don't have the WAN optimization, and the footprint required in the cloud is about 5 times more than if you were using an AltaVault. So AltaVault is an improved design against whether you're just using a backup software, a purpose-built appliance, or tape. So let's look at some of the next steps of what we can do. So I've talked about this sizing tool. So this sizing tool, it's a comprehensive tool. We'll input the data of how often do you do your backups, or whether your daily backups, weekly, monthly, what your retention policies are. We'll go into what the size of your WAN pipe and utilization, and this will actually spit out an optimal configuration, and will show you a ROI and a TCO against any one of these environments. And then on top of that, we will offer a free trial of up to 90 days without any commitments or any paperwork required. You can just be able to download one of these virtual appliances, and we will prove the configuration design we've created against any one of these designs or any of these architectures. And you'll see that this technology will be able to be optimal for your environment as well. Thank you. Thanks for listening.